This is part 2 of the Gary Muehlberg story. Warning, viewer discretion is advised. In the summer of 2022, that break arrived and prosecutors formally charged a 73-year-old Gary Muehlberg for the unalivings of Roby, Sandy, and Brenda. He had confessed to taking them to the house in Bell Ridge where the victims were subjected to numerous acts of torture before Gary strangled them. Then he left their lifeless bodies in conspicuous packages between a pair of mattresses and a large trash bin and a plywood box along major highways where they would be found. One of the frustrated detectives told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, "At the time, he's playing game with us, leaving bodies out in the open." For more than 3 decades, the package killer remained the city's most notorious serial unaliver to elude justice until now. It was stated by someone who knew Gary that he didn't like anyone who didn't respect the way he lived. He worked in construction in both in St. Louis and around the country. Various people who knew him said he was a creepy man with a very hostile demeanor who often espoused bizarre ideas. Given what we know now about Gary, the basement became what was certainly a torture chamber for the ladies that were unalived. Roby's body was found with quite a bit of blood and ligature around her neck. There was a stab around to the head that pierced the scalp but didn't go through, and contusions on her face, cheeks, wrists, and feet, and some of those were defensive wounds. Brenda was found in a brown plastic trash bin sitting in a grassy median between streets and wooden areas. Other evidence was found on the woman like the same dog hair strand. It was later discovered that Gary did have a dog in the early 1990s. In February 1972, Gary was charged with rape, kidnapping, and aggravated robbery after breaking into a house in Salina where an 18-year-old girl was alone. She told police that the 23-year-old Gary held her at knife point, raped her, and then forced her into accompanying him to the bank to withdraw $25 to hand it over to him. A judge ordered that a mental competency examination to be done on Gary prior to his trial. He was acquitted of rape. In January the following year in Salina, a 14-year-old was babysitting even a younger children when Gary knocked on the door asking if he could use a telephone. Brandishing a knife, he told her he was going to rob the house and then tie and gag the young girl, locked her in the bathroom. He began filling up the bathtub with water. However, a car drove by and Gary panicked, thinking it was the girl's parents, and fled. Gary was again charged with aggravated assault. At trial, Gary's lawyer claimed that Gary had gone insane at the time of the incident. Gary's wife, a mother and psychiatrist, testified for the defense. The jury found Gary guilty and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Later in 1973, Gary's wife divorced him. He had little contact with his wife or son from that first marriage thereafter. The same year, his mother and father moved back to St. Louis, where his father died of a heart attack soon after. You guys follow me for part 3 of the Gary Muehlberg story.